half of our team is decon, which is decontaminating, or what we now call is contamination mitigation. So our best effort to minimize any contaminant left on any casualty that's coming up from the hot zone. So whatever incident occurred, these casualties are going to be civilians. They can be just anybody in the local area. And then we also do the contamination mitigation, or what we call decon, on our own responders going downrange. So before they come back up and get to relax, they have to go through the whole process of making sure that there's no contamination on them. And if there is, we mitigate that to the best of our ability. So typically we use a whole lot of water, but here in the Arctic that's not possible without causing unnecessary harm to our casualties and ourselves. So for this exercise, we went with our best effort of a dry decon, which is a combination of vacuuming and wiping. So majority of contamination will be removed by removing your outer garments. And considering we're in the Arctic, you've got a lot of outer garments on. So at that point, it's just a matter of reducing the risk of airborne contaminants when we're removing those clothes. So we vacuumed our casualties first and then removed their outer garments. Once their outer garments were removed, then they took a wipe and wiped off where their exposed skin was, anything that might have touched the clothing as they removed that clothing, just to prevent any contamination getting onto their skin, or removing what could have possibly gotten there while they were on their way to us. So for the dogs, it's just the exact same process. So for the search and rescue dogs, number one, we don't decontaminate them. Their own handlers will. So that process is through our force protection lane, which is our decon line is set up in 2 lanes, one for casualties, one for us. The line that's for us is our force protection lane. And in that lane, we will monitor first. We'll try and find out, if there's only one little part of your body that has any contaminant on it, we're going to focus on that rather than going head to toe and wasting everybody's time, especially when we're on bottles. So an SCBA pack, you're on limited air as it is. We don't want anybody waiting an unnecessary amount of time. So with the dogs, they come in and their handlers will be monitored, and then the dog will be monitored. The dog will, if the dog is cool enough tempered and okay with it, we'll put them on a raised surface, so that way we can get those most likely contaminated parts of their bodies, which is going to be their face, their paws, and their underbelly from the neck to the tail. So if the dog is not comfortable with that, then we just have to tell the handler, make sure you get down in there and get good coverage with the vacuum. And so for this specific exercise, it was again a vacuum, and then just around the eyes and stuff where those bristles would be irritating, we used a wipe. So the first couple of days were very crawl, walk before we ran today. We did a lot of trial and error, hit or miss, things that we could only really figure out when we were here. So we planned and planned and planned, and we said, well, what if this, what if that? And then it all went out the window as soon as we got to the Arctic, and we realized that certain things just weren't going to happen. So here we had the idea for a certain line setup where we had a nice warm tent on the beginning, a nice warm tent on the end, nice warm tent in the middle for all of our casualties. And while we did maintain some good temperatures that were comfortable enough, it is the Arctic, so there were some hits or misses there. And then with just getting the process down. So our normal operations is washing someone with water, and that becomes muscle memory after you do it so much and you train that way so much. So to break that muscle memory and learn a whole new process, but you're still in that environment that you learned the first process in, was a little jarring at first, but we replayed role players for each other the first couple of days, so that way we could say, okay, well, how did this work out? Did anything get left behind with this? Is vacuuming someone's face going to irritate them? Is it going to be too abrasive on their skin? Are we just pushing more contaminant into their skin by causing that abrasion? And so our original plan was to vacuum skin. And then after a couple of tests, we said, that's probably not the best idea. We're going to change that. And that's when we went to vacuuming clothing and then wiping skin. So we had a lot of airmen that were attached to us, and they turned out to be a huge asset to us. We came here knowing we were undermanned, in the tent, outside of the tent, going down range, and it just turned out to be a huge blessing that we had this group of airmen who were not only eager but able to learn what we do, and they learned it well, they performed well, and things went really smoothly. So we were thankful to have them.